I'm 51 today.
Happy birthday.
You have got another, I don't want to live 100, but you've got another almost 50 years. So it's a golden era.
Absolutely. Right.
We are entering.
Yes.
And a woman should enter that era with full spirit and full strength. So I think that's where we need to think about. They may not focus so much on their health issues or
Yes.
which activity they used to do. Suddenly they have got studies, they have got stresses in life. Maybe they get exposed to boyfriend issues, and it just opens a different kind of mindset, and that's where sometimes things may go wrong for them.
Okay.
Our data is not yet published, so I can't really sort of give you all the figures. But what we have realized in our Leicester population and Asian population, that BMI 27 is actually bounding on the obesity link. So you should be classifying them as obese.
Welcome to Real People, Real Results, Real Change, the podcast that's dedicated to helping real people develop real health and fitness in their lives. Real people like you, business owners, professionals, house husbands and housewives, and students. I'm Stefan, I'm a personal wellness coach at UFit Studio, and I'll be your host. This episode, I'm talking with Asmita Padwardhan. She's a consultant gynaecologist at the University Hospitals of Leicester. And in this episode, we talk about women, women's health, and the role of fitness in women's health from teenage up to retirement. Okay, thanks so much for joining me, Asmita. I'm so excited to talk with you. And there's so much we could talk about, right? But we need to focus a little bit. But I know your background is in women's health, and that's from sort of teenage onwards, right?
Yep.
And covering like a wide aspect of health issues, and looking from both sides, looking in terms of obviously sort of like treatment, I guess, for where that's become clinical, but also thinking about prevention as well. And I guess what I'm hoping we can talk about today is a little bit along those sides of things, of prevention, but also the risks that are involved, I guess, in not having an awareness of health and fitness specifically, but what's possible when you do embrace that, and the sort of things that you can avoid or mitigate by sort of taking the bull by the horns and actually taking control over your health. And it's so relevant in the modern age, I think.
It is indeed.
Right. Okay.
Right from as an adolescent girl stepping out to uni and getting into adulthood, reaching into motherhood, and then coming at the age I am currently at, is at the brink of menopause.
Right.
And now, with the life expectancy being so high, that you have got, I'm 51 today.
Happy birthday.
You have got another, I don't want to live 100, but you've got another almost 50 years. So it's a golden era.
Absolutely. Right.
We are entering.
Yes.
And a woman should enter that era with full spirit and full strength. So I think that's where we need to think about.
Okay. So where do we start? Like, what are some of the... So what often goes wrong? Like, what do people not think about or do that potentially impacts on their health through these different life stages? What are some of the issues?
I think at every stage, when there is a step up, there is a possibility of things might not go right way. Or there might be an excitement which will take you to a different path.
Okay.
And for example, girls maturing into adulthood and stepping GCSEs and A-levels, they were so active till then. And then suddenly when the period starts or their life like horizon expand, they may not focus so much on their health issues or
Yes.
which activity they used to do. Suddenly they have got studies, they have got stresses in life. Maybe they get exposed to boyfriend issues, and it just opens a different kind of mindset. And that's where sometimes things may go wrong for them.
Okay.
At the same time, the girls might take intense activity and getting into sports and really having robust life,
Right.
but then sometimes can go to a different extent.
Okay.
And that also can have an impact
Okay.
on somebody's health.
Right. Going too
So
far.
I think that's where,
Yeah.
that's where things go. So because then some girls will be so much foodie, and then they will try to avoid certain kind of food.
Yes.
They go through anorexia, then comes the bulimia, where you want to just get rid of what you eat. And then effectively it has got effect on your brain,
Okay.
which then has got effect on your cycles. So I think
Right.
girls don't often realize that they will come to you with a period problem. I'm a gynecologist, and or they don't get periods because they get worried, but nobody realizes that it's not about fixing the problem with pills or hormones. It's about fixing with brain, because there is a connection between brain and the ovary,
Right.
and that
Right.
goes wrong. The circuit breaks somewhere.
Okay.
And I think this is the circuit break we talk about at every stage of life, and that can have impact on what you do.
Okay. Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. So I get, and that makes so much sense because when we develop, to be honest, at any age, right, an issue that is clinical, right, we're going to our doctor or you refer to a consultant or something. There's some issue. We're focused on the problem, right, the symptom. And it's less common that we stand back and say, what's going on here?
Absolutely.
What am I doing around this that might be contributing?
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
always, but sometimes.
Not always, but at the same time, not every problem has got solutions, and we have to find a way around it. So,
Right.
I mean, I say to my patients that I'm not here to give you a complete resolution of your problem, but I'm here to help you to be able to cope with what you're facing. So I think that's the modern medicine.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that it's managing the expectation.
Okay, that's interesting.
So I think it's quite important.
Yeah, yeah. You can't wave your wand, and not always, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, there will be only certain problems, like if you get a lung infection, which is because of bacteria, and I can give antibiotics and that gets cured.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
That's sorted.
Yeah.
But often all other problems in life are not going to have a single solution.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And there is a way beyond medicine.
Right, right. Okay. And I guess that's where we move into, amongst other things, lifestyle.
Yeah, holistic approach.
Holistic approach. Okay. So where is something like fitness in all of this? Like, is it a fundamental driver of or the lack of it a fundamental driver in lots of conditions and potentially illness? Is it one factor amongst a multitude? Where does it sit, would you say, in your experience?
Okay. I think if you take fitness as whole, I think it's a principle, a creed or driver.
Okay.
Because fitness has got aspects, which is a physical aspect of it, and there is a mental aspect of it. And therefore, if you combine both together, it is the main thing.
Okay.
And so that's the most key drive. I mean, if your body is healthy, you can actually have stamina to do things. But at the same time, if you are emotionally weak or your mind is not working well, then you cannot do half of the things you wanted to do. Or, that's something important. And when I see across people, you realize that somebody might be 57-year-old, but with a mindset like strong, she can run a marathon.
Right, yes.
Even with little practice, but just because it's sort of there. But then there are other people who are actually quite fit, young, 20-year-old, has got everything right, what they can do, but they may not get there. So I think, so it's all together.
Yes.
And of course, then your genes matter. How it's a nurture versus nature we always talk about.
Right.
So although physically or externally you can boost everybody, if there is a genetic makeup where you are going to get certain type of disease, there is not a lot you can do about it.
Okay.
So I think that we have to accept somewhere.
Yeah. So to some extent, it's the hand that you draw, but there are often options within that as well.
Absolutely, and that's why maintaining fitness, physical fitness, then becomes essential, because even if genetically you're pushed to suffer that particular bit, because if your general fitness is otherwise better, you will pull it a lot better than somebody else whose fitness is not good.
Okay.
So I think that's where the fitness comes, that even if whatever you're meant to happen, if you sort of nourish it properly and at least work towards a fitness area, it will help.
Okay. And when you think about fitness, like what, because it's a broad spectrum, right? Like what does that mean? What are you thinking? Like what does that, especially like when it comes to like an impact on health?
Well, I mean, in a way, I mean, I do feel that even from a personal experience, I can say that there are times which are not in your hand and you actually go down the fitness rail. That might be because of, I mean, for me, I just happened to be in the jungles and I contracted a disease called as chikungunya, which is quite common in Indian subcontinent. It comes from a mosquito, but it's a viral disease. And then after that, it's like it affects your joints completely. Then you need to go on steroids, and then obviously then after effects are you gain so much fat at wrong places. And once that is there, it is very hard to shift. And then you go through a mindset that it's not going to happen. I think it's like a vicious circle. So it's important that we address the problems, and it's okay. I mean, these things happen, but I think if you approach it in the right way, things can sort of get back to the shape again. So that probably is not the answer you wanted.
No.
But I think it's an important thing that there are things not in our hands, so we have to work around it.
Absolutely.
To get it sorted.
Absolutely. And I guess it's chicken and egg as to what help. Like I'm assuming if you've already built up a level of physical and so strength and cardiovascular fitness, that because your baseline's higher, that's helpful in situations like that. Not always, depends, right? But can be helpful
it does,
in terms of recovery. But mindset's the other side of it, isn't it? So I was talking with Bally, who was almost written off by her doctors right at one point. Didn't feel she had much chance, and her sheer determination plus the support of her family enabled her to move forward. But she almost had to do that by sheer force of will initially, sort of fighting for each step.
Absolutely. So I think it's really important to get proper help. So it will be from doctors, it will be from your friends, colleagues, experts, like our gym provides. I go to gym where it is given to me on my plate. So it's very important that, and I think it's approaching right people at right time. And trusting that process.
That's interesting.
So I think that's another thing one needs to be aware of, that if you go to somebody, take their advice. At that time, I wouldn't say my own wisdom around it. And I think you listen to an expert and take the advice and then move forward.
Okay. And then, so what are some of the, so you've mentioned to me that like, for example, so in women's health, there can be a correlation between like hormonal health and balance and physical fitness. And I guess weight, is that part of it, or is that too simple?
Sorry, did you say weight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about kind of that picture and how that works.
So, for example, I mean, at menopause, there are a lot of changes happening in body. Various hormones are moving up and down. So at that stage, various things happen. I mean, first of all, there may be a direct effect of the hormones, which may increase the fat deposits sometimes in particular areas. It is also part of the hormonal changes, which people are more depressed, or they are lonely at that time, or they are the age-related factors. Kids have gone to university. It's other way around as well. It's not about getting lonely, but sometimes the life becomes a lot freer. You don't have to do school drop-offs. You don't have to worry about your kids' tantrums. So suddenly life is free, and then you may eat more. You can eat in depression more, or you can have wine and dine more, and because you're free and single mingle kind of situation. So I think all these changes in effect can cause increased weight gain. So it's not only menopause we blame on hormones. It is hormones, but hormones can lead to different areas. So it can directly deposit the fat. It can increase your hunger. It can increase your cravings, which lead to increased eating, leading to increased fat deposits. So I think it's all intermingled. It also changes. For example, there are various changes happening in the body. I mean, there are girls who came to me asking, oh, my breast size is increasing. What do I do? Nothing.
Okay. Right.
Well, I mean, it's a part of how things are. It may be you're becoming fat, and that's why it's increasing, but it's maybe you're developing muscles. It changes, and so I think all these body changes, body composition changes happen around menopause. Similarly, in younger people where they've got polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS is a very, very interesting talk about. There is a hormonal imbalance, and there is an increased insulin hormone in your body, which there are bodies resistance to, and therefore it sets into a vicious cycle where there is a more increased eating, fat deposits, gaining weight, and then shedding that weight becomes very, very difficult.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I think these aspects are there, and I think the advice we do give for polycystic ovaries, and I really keep telling my girls, which obviously I should have listened to my own advice in the past, but basically we say to girls that don't focus on losing weight. It's about increasing the metabolism.
Right.
So increasing the activity. So when I see them in the clinic, I ask them, show me what you have done during the week, or show me what you have done during the month, rather than how much you weighed, and we don't weigh them. And that's how so I think these are the aspects you need to think. And this is where we sort of try to send them to experts, because polycystic ovary person might need a different diet than somebody who is on steroids and needing something different. So I think there are various kinds of expert advice are required in these scenarios.
Okay, absolutely. And so I remember hearing you talk at one point, and this was talking about adults, and you were talking about, but I think it was adult women that, broadly speaking, becoming fit and reducing BMI is an important factor, especially sort of moving from middle age onwards, in terms of sort of health indicators. Is it as simple as that, or like what is good advice for women? So moving from, say, mid-30s, moving forwards, like is should they be focusing on things like that in terms of weight? Should they be focusing? Should that not be a focus? Should it be just on thinking about just overall fitness and strength? Like where does someone put their focus, and what's most beneficial as far as we know at the moment? I know these things change, right? Yeah,
they do change, but I think the most important aspect, is a threefold thing. So strength, stamina, and flexibility.
Okay.
So especially after 40, you do need muscle strength. So which doesn't mean that you need to lift like 50 kilos and 100 kilos.
Right.
All we really want people for their bone health is to use 2 or 3 kilo dumbbells and just do simple exercises, because that's what the strength is required.
Okay.
But at the same time, walking and doing some flexibility work like yoga. I really am pro yoga person, but it is really important because it's the breathing and the joint flexibility. So I think these are the 3 things you have to focus. Body mass index or BMI, I think we all are sort of so fixated upon. Even in at hospital we are that, oh, you have to have BMI under 30 for me to operate on you. That's our standard tagline.
Really? Okay.
But that's okay. That gives a rough idea, but that may not be a correct thing to do, because somebody might be a football player and he might have a BMI which is extremely high, but he's still a fit person.
Right.
While somebody like a petite person or one of the Asian girls, like myself perhaps, because and we have got a lot of deposition of abdominal fat.
Okay.
Now, our data is not yet published, so I can't really sort of give you all the figures.
No.
But what we have realized in our Leicester population and Asian population, that BMI 27 is actually bounding on the obesity link. So you should be classifying them as obese.
Really?
And that's why it's the waist to hip ratio perhaps is more important.
Okay. Yep.
And or inch, whatever we measure, because that's where all the type 2 diabetes,
Right.
hypertension, endometrial cancer,
Right.
it's all linked.
Okay.
So I think, we can't, that's why get fixated on one indicator.
No.
And I think the data is more and more coming,
Yeah.
that 30 is okay for, I was BMI 29, but that was not okay.
Right.
I used to say, oh, it's under 30, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think, obviously nothing may have happened to me, but at the same time, it's important that we see so much cancer that maybe we should play our part in terms of reducing it. So I think that would be the advice. So I think getting engaged in the activity, increasing the activity from what you were doing yesterday to today to tomorrow is what you need to do. And you have to compete with yourself and not with somebody else.
Yeah. So little steps.
Little steps,
and,
one at a time.
It's not about some arbitrary kind of like goal or something like that, but just improving your own sort of activity. And
every day is more than the other day.
okay, perfect. All righty. So any other sort of top tips, especially, I mean, not just for women, right? But I think, so one of the things that has come out through some of these conversations is the benefit for women often of strength training. It's more, like you say, like, it's not pushing crazy weights or anything like that, but increasing some strength as we get older in terms of bone health. But what would be your sort of general tips to someone listening who wants to improve their health? They may not have access to fancy facilities or something like that, but simple things they can do to sort of start moving in the right direction.
So I think first of all, I would say focus. So any action, I mean, you want to have a good quality of life, and entering into your golden era with a full bang, you need to look after yourself in terms of nourishment. So check what you eat. If you're not eating adequately, I mean, I'm not a fan of supplements, but at the same time, the only supplement I would really, really strongly recommend is vitamin D3, especially for Asian women and so menopausal health. And of course, all the vitamins, but if you're eating all salads and stuff and colors, that's going to give you that. So nourishment is really important. It's not about food restriction, but it's about inclusiveness of all the kinds of different foods, fat, protein, carbs, without even thinking about them. So I would generally say that is an essential
and you
element.
said colours, so not a beige diet, as if you can avoid it. The more colour, the
more
better.
colourful, because they're now going to eat better and a lot more than what you could have eaten.
Okay.
So I think that's where, and I think that's what, again, I'm learning from my peers as well coming to gym. I think that's a motivational factor where I go to gym, where I meet people, where I talk to them, and they give me advice, I give them advice. So I think it's a mutual thing. So I think perhaps speaking to your peer, forming a group of similar people together, and inspire each other. So that's the first step, I would say.
Okay.
So nourishment, meeting people, don't be alone. And then coming to strength, I mean, you don't need to, I think you have got a lot of parks we have got where there are a lot of equipments there in the gym.
Yes.
So you could use that. If you're swimming, that gives you a good strengthening activity. Just using shopping bags and walking around could give you, those basic kind of things, I would say.
Yeah.
Yoga gives a good strength. So I think whatever you can afford, go to experts if you can. Otherwise, there are lots of YouTube videos are available, podcasts are there. But I think choose wisely which one you are following, and then you can actually get some advice and do these things. But focusing on all these three aspects is going to help.
Yeah.
So nourish, revive, move, so activity. That's how your life will thrive.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, thank you so much, Asmita. That's wonderful. I know we could talk about a lot more.
Yeah.
We've run out of time for today, but hopefully I will speak to you again soon.
Yeah, it was nice talking to you as well.
It's an absolute privilege.
Thank you.